Hi, and welcome to another edition of Slightly More Professional Race Stories.
Or if you happen to watch the Florida one, then we're a little bit more prepared for this one. So.
Yeah, we actually remember this race. Sorry. So Panama. So this is your first race back.
Yeah, post
with two arms.
Yeah, man. Post.
As it turns out, that's important for Ironman.
Yeah. I mean, not as important. I mean, pretty important. But.
All right, are we doing race review and then race stories, or are we kind of just integrating this all?
I think let's do it all as one thing.
Okay. Why does your shirt have? Oh, is it just the ink? You look like you have little black spots, but then I look like I also have little black spots.
Is this the first white shirt we've gotten?
This is the first white shirt of this series. Yes.
Is it the first white shirt ever? Or
no, I've got.
You got other white shirts. Okay. So of the races that we've done in 2021 and this is 2022. This is the first white one. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty.
What'd you get? Is yours large or medium?
Medium. What's yours?
Mine is also a medium.
Yours is extra medium.
And mine is apparently a little extra medium.
It also has writing on the back.
Michelob sponsorship. Yeah. So you got the shirt when you picked up the packet.
You also got a backpack.
Yeah.
And it's a decent backpack. I'm just one tree. I mean, one hole on the top. So I mean, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you got to check in? Did we get any food or anything?
No food. I don't. Oh, we got the mug. That was a fun story.
Yeah. I was gonna bring it. So we are in Oman, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring this mug." And Charlotte was like, "No, you're not. It's like a half a pound to your bag. It's breakable. Why would you carry that to Oman?"
Possible way.
It's just a coffee mug, and it says Ironman Panama on it. Nothing doesn't say anything else.
It's pretty special.
It is a very special mug.
So. We're going through and getting the stuff, and they have the Red Bulls that you can have. They were passing out Michelob Ultra is the big sponsor there, so they were trying to hand those out.
Oh yeah, because we got the Subaru was sponsoring. We got the water bottles from Subaru, and okay.
And so I'm going through, and they've got this other list, and our name is never on any list. Well, I mean, no good list.
Yeah, all the bad lists.
Yeah.
But they're giving away free stuff, so you have to stop and check to see if your name is on the list.
So we just see what, I don't know, there's nothing displayed. It's just these white boxes that they have. It's usually junk, whatever.
I'm like, we want one of those.
But she goes through, and I look, and my name's on the list.
Yeah, his name's on the list.
Billy's got a magnifying glass out looking for his name.
Yeah, they got like 150 names on that list, and my name's not on there. And I'm like, are you sure? If his name's on the list, my name has to be on it. Turns out it was the all-world athlete. So this is... If you do a gazillion races for Ironman, you eventually end up with enough points to where you can consider to be one of the top people in your age group. Clearly, we're not the top people in our age group, but just because we did a bunch of races, then it makes it look like we are. So anyway, so we both got all-world athlete status for 2022, and Panama was giving out a gift.
Yeah. So you got a free coffee mug. So Billy had to go to the help desk to prove that he was an all-world athlete.
I would think so, and then to give him something for free and not give me something for free.
And why was your name not on the list? Just out of curiosity.
Are we really going there?
Yeah, we're absolutely going there.
So. And this is not the first time this has happened.
Well, I just don't think we need to admit to every single time, but I think all of them are you, so we can.
I didn't sign up for the race until after it sold out. Sam did, and I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I think probably Sam signed up for it on the sly and didn't tell me.
Yes, that's exactly how this
that's probably what it was.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
I sit down.
But anyway, so we were able to get me signed up for the race. Thank you, Jorge, for letting me sign up for the race. But since I signed up late, then my name wasn't on the list. Jorge is so this is a licensed race. So to tell you the difference, I mean, Ironman has Ironman-owned races where Ironman will put them on, and most most of the North American races. I mean, the vast majority.
Yeah,
of North
I can think of
races
one or two that are
licensed races. But a lot of the international races are licensed races where they're just using the Ironman name and the Ironman setup or whatever, but they're owned by somebody else. And Jorge is the guy that owns the Panama race.
So very cool. This was the Panama Canal is obviously the first thing you think about when you go to Panama.
I thought that was it. I mean, the Panama Canal. I mean, is there anything? What's the other industry in Panama besides the canal?
Banking.
And we go into Panama City, and dude, there's a bunch of really big, nice buildings in Panama City. It is not like Panama City, Florida.
No.
I mean, although there are some big buildings in Panama City, Florida, but there were bigger, nicer buildings in Panama City, Panama.
So the Spanish moved all of the gold through Panama back during the conquistador eras. And so I guess banking has just always been a thing. I don't know. But yeah, there was, we visited a fort that got rebuilt. This was fort ruins. But this was the fourth iteration of that particular fort.
Because it kept getting destroyed.
Yeah, the pirates literally kept taking it over. So that was pretty cool. I mean, you could drive. It took us, an hour and a half to get from Panama City, and it's in my head that it's on the Caribbean side. It's not. It's on the Pacific side. So you go down to the other side. But the train was closed. They have a train that you can take across and see the canal. So we just drove.
The roads are not good.
We get to the airport, right, and we get our rental cars, and the very first thing they show us on the rental cars are the spare tires and where the jacks are. This isn't good. Billy had a truck. He got shown where the
You could have had that truck. The truck was stick shift, and you didn't want to drive it, so that's why I got this. But I got me a 4-wheel drive truck, and so I had probably a little bit better riding experience than Sam did.
He got a fire extinguisher, which is even more disconcerting. What is going to happen? The roads are not great. The race is on the best roads in all of Panama.
Absolutely.
We can say that because we drove a lot of Panama.
That's kind of a cool story. You can actually touch the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea all in the same day. I mean, that's you drive from one end of the country to the other and stick your foot in the water each place. Because that's why the canal's there, because it's really narrow. And I mean, it wasn't a couple hours drive or whatever?
Yes, hour and a half was the way out there, and then of course it took longer on the way back because we stopped and toured the canal.
Yeah. So we did do that too, watching the ships go through the canal.
That was really cool. Certainly, if you ever have the chance, I'd recommend it. It was wild to see. The ships are a foot and a half or 3 feet. Was it a meter and a half? No, I think it was 3 feet. Foot and a half on either side.
For the Panamax.
Yeah, from the actual walls. That's how close it is. But they
hook them up to these little train-looking things, and there's train tracks, and just pull them through.
Yeah, really cool. So we learned lots about the canal. There's certainly a lot of cool history there. So
as in case you were wondering. They charge to go through the canal. They charge you by how much the boat weighs. So the exact same size ship can come through and have different tariffs or fees or whatever each time it comes through, just depending on how much it actually weighs. So that was they said anywhere from, I think the lowest was like $600 or
yeah. So I think it was $400 for a sailboat.
For the small sailboats was $400, up to over $1 million for the biggest
new Panamax stuff. So they have dug a second canal for bigger ships. So they post Panamax. They're better experts than us on that stuff, but
They're making it so bigger ships can go through.
It was very cool and amazing to watch. Yeah, I'd recommend it. I'd like to go through the canal now. It would be really cool.
What else did we tour around and see?
Oh man, we should cover driving in Panama because I feel like that was its whole own monster.
I mean, the roads are just so many potholes, and
So Google for us didn't do well when you have different elevations, when you have an elevated street versus a surface street. So people that live in Chicago might be able to do better with that, but Google wasn't great. One of the pictures on the metal in the bag is of the Bridge of the Americas, which we could see
as we were swimming.
When we were swimming, so it's really cool. But so we're, Google says stay right, and she meant in a 2-lane right, the left of the 2 lanes. But we were already in the right of the 2 right lanes, and then they have these plastic barriers which are just high enough to really screw up the underside of your car.
Yes.
So
you couldn't get over. So once you were in that lane, that's the way that you were going.
We got to experience the Bridge of the Americas twice, actually, because we had to come back. So thank you, Google. So you can drive it. It was frustrating. You should allow for extra time. Would pretty much be my thing. And then, of course, the car battery incident. We get back and my car is dead. So of course they gave us spare tire, fire extinguisher, nothing to jump off.
Jumper cables.
Jump off. But some people from the race actually stepped up. One guy came up behind us and he had a wrench. So we were undoing the battery off the truck to jump off the car, and somebody else walked up with a pair of jumper cables. It was really awesome.
Yeah, one guy loaned us some tools to switch out batteries, and one guy saw what we were doing and went and got some jumper cables and brought them back. So that was actually pretty cool. Both of them in the race.
Yeah.
Both triathletes. So, I mean, that's just... people stop and help each other with flat tires, on the bike or whatever, but people, it's just a community, right? That's and that translates from foreign countries to domestic countries.
Yeah.
Domestic.
Our knowledge of Spanish is awful. Is actually the right way to say that. So,
cables de jump. I don't know what it's cables de something.
Oh yeah. Sorry, we looked it up on the phone so we could ask. It's cable de jump is actually was worked. So, not speaking Spanish did not hinder us at all in the country. It did hinder my bike conversations, but we can talk about that later. Drivable, I would say.
You can rent a car.
It's doable.
Yeah.
So...
allow for extra time because you're going to make some wrong turns or whatever. We ended up taking the scenic route several times. The bridge was probably the worst because you were in the wrong lane and you couldn't get over into the correct lane. And in order to make the U-turn, you had to go all the way over the bridge, find another U-turn, come all the way back. So, but we got to go over the bridge, so it wasn't that big of a deal. All right, talk about the race. Check-in.
So check-in is not at the race site. The race site is pretty well self-contained is what I want to call that. It is off on its own. I don't know what that is. Maybe an island?
I think it is actually an island. But it's part of the entrance to the Panama Canal. It is the entrance to the Panama Canal from the Pacific side. Is where you are. Sorry guys, we're yawning because it's been.
Right.
We're tired. It's tough traveling to Oman.
Yeah, well, we'll tell those race stories. Those will be fresh. So we stayed. There's only one hotel that is reasonably close to the actual race itself, and that joker fills up quickly. So if you're wanting to stay close. Just you're driving one way or another. There's no way around that they had buses. So Ironman had buses to get you back and forth, and I don't know how it worked with.
We got parking. We got parking, but there wasn't a ton of parking. If you do drive yourself, and highly recommend it. I mean, it was fine to do that. You need to get to the race early.
So there's this, you'll look from space, it's held at the convention center. There's tons of convention center parking.
Beautiful, brand new
parking. We were allowed to not use but any of it. Zero at all. Where
they had it all. I mean, they had barricades up. They wanted to make sure we weren't using that parking lot.
And they were saving it for I don't know what because nothing happened.
Nothing else happened.
Yeah, I don't understand why parking lot was not allowed.
And that big beautiful convention center wasn't used the entire.
The entire day. We surrounded it, so you couldn't use it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't know. But so you'll look on space and you'll see this great parking, and that's not it. There is one street, and you can park on both sides of that street. That's the parking for the race. It's not a big race. What was this, 1,100 people or so?
Yeah.
There were going to be parking problems, so arrive early for this race. But we check in, check-ins downtown, and you went to this hotel. All that was fine. There was nothing really complicated there.
You go drop off your bike in transition. Let's talk about transition. So there are 2 rows of bikes. Now remember, we just said 1,100 people, so there's 500 bikes on one side, 500 bikes, 550 on one side, 550 on the other. It is forever long. Forever long from one end to the other. I don't know how they could have done it any different.
They're not going to change that. And
that's
all they had to do was change the because the bike starting line was a fixed point.
Yeah.
But you could change that swim start because it was so you could grow that race further.
Yeah, because it was kind of a jog after you got out of the swim to get into transition. So yeah, they could do 1,500 easy.
Yeah.
And it's just going to make the transition longer.
It won't make your run any longer because you get out of the swim and hit and run down to transition. So you're going to have one or another. Sorry.
God, spreading the COVID. Spreading it in Oman.
Not COVID positive and documented, actually.
Multiple documentation of not having COVID.
Yeah. We start with the swim, I guess. Okay, so race, gear bags. So we are going to get ready for the swim. Right, we've dropped all our stuff off. Everything's prepped.
They gave you a morning clothes bag.
They have a morning clothes bag for you, and it's a a nylon bag, not the usual plastic crap. Those were nice bags.
There was nowhere to drop it off.
At all.
Ever.
Yeah.
I mean, Charlotte was there with us, so she got lucky. We got lucky and got to hand her our stuff, but
we met a dude from Estonia, and he was like, "Hey, you guys look like you know what we were doing." Obviously, we do, but we're idiots. Take it good with the bad, and we didn't. So it was go find a volunteer, and of course, the volunteers don't know.
No, I mean, we looked everywhere because we were there a little bit early and they had plenty of time. But anyway, so morning clothes bag, you're not going to be able, or unless they change it, make sure you have somebody there, or you take disposable shoes, or he ended up just setting his on the ground somewhere and hoped that somebody would pick it up and take it to the finish line. Because I mean, the finish line wasn't close, but it wasn't that far away. So if somebody just left it, then he could have come back that afternoon and got it. But yeah, it was kind of crazy. So now we are talking about this. Let's talk about the swim start. We went to the information session the day before, got to meet the announcer, super cool guy. Anyway, he was talking about how fast the swim was. This is a super fast swim that you need to be prepared for that. You're going with the current, and we're like, okay, cool. This, it's an ocean swim, really. I mean, it's definitely saltwater, brackish.
Brackish, certainly.
But it's it's in the Panama Canal, the entrance to the Panama Canal. So that's cool too. But it's going to be fast. So that morning we're going back and forth, and there's a guy that's talking to us, and we have our wetsuits out, and he was like, "Oh yeah," he said, "the first time I did the swim with no wetsuit. I did it in 22 minutes. And this is not a swimmer-looking guy.
No,
this is not.
No, he looked our kind of shape.
Yeah.
Our physique.
He said the next time I did it with the wetsuit, and it was 28 minutes. So I ain't wearing a wetsuit anymore. And we're like, okay, that's not really how that works. But regardless, 22 or 28 minute swim,
fast swim.
We're into that. That's pretty cool. So, but you go seed yourself, and you're supposed to seed yourself.
Yeah.
In the what's your normal swim time?
So yeah, pool. He said pool. What's your pool 100?
Yeah. So we get in a little more aggressive than we should. What were we like 35 to 40 minutes or something?
Our logic was that it's going to be a hot day. So the sooner we get in the water, the sun's lower. Just try to stay out of the heat. So
yeah, we knew it was going to be hot.
This is a point-to-point swim. You don't have to worry about too many curves and people swimming over people. So we can go ahead and be aggressive and get further up. So we started in the 30 to 35 range at the back of that. So we were
right at 35 minutes or whatever. So the back of that one, in front of the 35 to 40 or whatever the next one was. And we're looking back behind us. There's not all that many people behind us, and you get in your little corral area, and then you go down and you go on this dock, this like pier, really is what it is that you walk out on. And so we go walk out on the pier, and as we're walking out on the pier, and good for them, they had a roped off section so that I guess members of the media could come up and down, or other people could come up and down. So we're just standing there, and as we're standing there, just people keep running by like. They were late to the start or whatever, so I want to make sure I get in my corral. And so, the first few people you look at and you're like, oh, okay, well, I understand. They overslept or they didn't get their bike set up right. I mean, everybody's been there. We understand, right? And then it keeps going and keeps going.
It's not just that, right? They have that, plus you have people like just
weaving
slowly
in and out. Yes. I mean, by the time that we finished, there's like 3 people behind us.
Yeah.
I mean, there was more than that.
A little bit of exaggeration, but he's not far off.
Yeah.
We obviously shifted, 4 corrals back.
So anyway, we finally get in the water and we start swimming. Now, I tell you all of that because I want you to understand that you want to be at the front of the line for this race.
Yes.
This race, I don't care how fast you swim,
go ahead and get in front.
You want to get in the front. Unless you're just planning on having a relaxing day, or maybe the temperature's better or something like that. But the reason that you want that is because we start swimming. And the race started at like 6:25 or something like that, and we're getting in the water at like between 6:50 and 6:55. I think probably everybody was in the water by 7, so that's how far back we were. You get in the water and you kind of jump in and then you swim up under the pier. So you kind of make a U and swim up under the pier, and it's just a straight line. At 7 a.m., the sun comes up over the trees, and you're looking dead in it. Oh, your sighting is staring at the sun the entire
giant glowing ball. That's what you're looking for.
And how bad it is for me for sighting. The far off buoys I could see, but as they got closer, I couldn't see them anymore because it was too bright. I literally swam into 2 buoys. Just swam right into them, head first, because I couldn't see them because the sun's so blinding. So that kind of, and then my swim time was like, it was faster. 36, 38 minutes or something like that. That's faster than normal, but it wasn't any 28 minutes or 22 minutes or whatever. So be aware that just because people say that it's a fast swim, it was a faster swim. So that was about
I think I was
20% faster.
It was like 35 minutes. It was not. 42 minutes is what I expect wetsuit ocean swim. That's 7 minutes. But yes, I was looking forward to like a 20-minute swim.
That 15 to 20%. That has to do with the tide.
Yeah.
Right? It has, or whatever water they're left. I don't know.
Yeah, the tide is certainly going out.
Yeah. And so, anyway, just know that just because somebody told you they did a 22-minute swim, that's not necessarily what you're going to do. Go ahead and get in the front, because those guys had it much easier.
Yeah.
And they probably saved some time not having to run into buoys, and they got out on the bike and it wasn't as hot for them.
This is going to be a hot race. So Panama, known for jungle, doesn't have any trees on that bike at all.
Yeah, so you get out of the swim, and it's stairs to get out of the swim, and there's railing, and they don't want you swimming past you need to, as you make the turn towards the stairs, aim to the left, and I mean like significantly to the left, because again there's a current, and so it's pushing you.
I feel like I was fairly right. If the desired direction was straight, then I was certainly swimming something akin to like a 45-degree angle to stay straight.
Yeah, I mean you want to sight to, a good ways to the left of the stairs, and then you just end up being pushed into the stairs. And that wasn't hard, and they have volunteers out there to make sure that you don't swim past it. But if it was an even stronger current, so if you feel it and it's a really strong current, then you really want to swim to the left so that you get pushed into the stairs. You hop out of the stairs, and then it's a good long ways to get into transition. 400 meters maybe.
Good night, at least.
Yeah, and then you're running to your bike, which is forever in there also. So just know that it's a good long ways for you to get from the swim to your bike, depending on where your bike is and all of that. And then to get your bike out on the course. That was it. How many bikes? Was it 6 or was it 8?
What?
Bikes per rack.
8
bikes per rack. And you. So that was tight. I don't know why they didn't do 6, but whatever. They did 8.
So interestingly enough, they had the people who no-showed. So they had a bunch of extra bike racks. So you were allowed that morning to move your bike to a different rack.
It was further away from the bike, so the bike in and out same place.
So the same spot.
So it made it more of a disadvantage to you because you had to move your bike, but it gave you more space to set up your stuff. So that was nice that they allowed people to use that extra space.
It's not common. Generally, Ironman will just go ahead and start taking down those racks.
Yeah.
You've already paid for them for the day. That was a very thoughtful thing from the race director.
Yeah.
So the bike.
Yeah, you get out on the bike.
So you go out on the bike, and it's a 3-loop course with 2 U-turns on each one. Really is the.
Yeah, it's out and back, out and back.
So there were speed humps, I guess is what you'd call them, early out. That didn't seem to slow me down that much, or maybe I just wasn't going very fast. But they weren't that bad.
You got any other bike stories?
Yeah, man. I don't. There was a dude on a fat tire mountain bike.
Did he pass you?
Like 3 times. We kept passing each other.
No, I'm saying, did he finish before you?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
That's only because you had a flat tire, though. If you hadn't had a flat tire, then you probably would have been way ahead of him.
I stayed with him. Oh man, I started cramping. I started cramping on the second loop, and I've done stuff. I've been working out. I have not been working out on the bike, but I was having a tough day. That a fat tire mountain bike, and so I was like, man, I'm so impressed. Like, what inspired you to do a 56-mile ride on that? This was the only bike I could rent. So there was some kind of issue. He said he brought his bike and there was an issue.
Good for him. I'm a finisher. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to set a PR, but I'm going to do this race.
I'm doing the race.
All right.
So he got it. That was language barrier is not awesome for.
Yeah, Spanish. There was a lot of ominous going on, especially on the run.
Yeah, no, the crowd support was awesome, and then when they saw USA, they cheered English. That part was fun, but the racers did not want to talk.
It's really easy if you're trying to talk to somebody in English and English isn't their first language. It's really easy for them to be like, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's my guess on.
Or maybe they actually are racing, or not just participating. Although if they're with us, they're participating.
They were. I guess
some people in their
too, since it was a 3-loop bike course and a 3-loop run course, they could have been on their second or third loop or whatever but whatever. So you get off the bike, come into transition. And two, to note the transition, all your stuff's at the bike, so that's why having 8 per rack is kind of tough. But there was a little bit of space around your bike, so it was all right. But get off the bike, head out on the run.
Head out on the run. So 3-loop run course. There were a couple of trees. I'm not gonna say shade. There was some like a little bit of respites, like oases in the desert. But yeah, this is sunny. Just plain on hot, humid, and sun.
And flat.
Flat. No, man. That joker was flat. So it's an out and back 3 times. So once you've done it the first time, you've got it down. This race, and they deserve kudos on it, had ice on all 3 of our laps. What did we finish this thing in? I had a flat tire, and still it was like 7 hours and change.
Yeah, it was a tough race, but they started running low on ice, and you're like, oh, because I mean that's usually what happens. On a 3-loop, after the second loop, and they start running low, you're like, oh, that 3rd loop, there's not gonna be any more ice. They had the ice like storage containers or whatever, like what you go to the
it's in front of a convenience store
that you open up and it has the bags of ice in it. They had those out there plugged in with generators.
Yeah,
I mean, they were
ready to rock. Tons of water. The volunteers were hilarious. If you didn't want anything, they were slightly insulted. Yeah. They were pushing the free water and whatever the Gatorade or
it was electrolyte or something like that.
Yeah. They had they had whatever their name was, or Red Bull or Coke or whatever they had. They really wanted you to take it, and the volunteers were into it, and that makes it so fun.
And even then, I mean, there was a ton of even like spectators or whatever that had coolers that were giving out beer or whatever it is that you wanted on the run. So that was, I mean, it was fun for people. I mean, because pretty much you get out on the island and you're there all day. I mean, you can't really leave.
There was no.
It would have been tough to be able to leave. So you just come out there and you have your cooler and
post up.
Get your tailgating chairs out, camp chairs out, and you're good to go.
They had a couple of bands.
Yeah, like marching band or whatever, like tuba, trumpet, trombone,
saxophone,
drums.
Yeah,
and they were so loud.
Oh man,
they really motivated you to run.
Yeah,
because you didn't want to walk by those guys.
Oh, man. But yeah, this was interesting. The pacers. I don't know what to call it because we saw one guy who was having a hard time, so somebody was running with him. But yeah, occasionally for stretches, I would see like people's coaches run with them for a little bit. Like, hey, you're doing great. Like in Europe, dude, those rules are hard and fast. In America, you can get away with a few steps, but if you're running any distance, they'll call you on it. This race, they did not care. It was interesting.
So, finish line. It's 3 loops on the run, and when you finish the 3rd loop, it's still a good long ways to the finish line. I mean, you have to know on your watch that you hadn't gotten to 13.1, so you know how far you have left. But you finish the 3rd loop, and then you go into these woods, and it's kind of
it's an abandoned housing
neighborhood thing
project.
It's kind of sketchy. Never felt unsafe.
No,
other than
looks like you're going into a haunted house. Yeah. I mean, there's just I'd call them condos, maybe 3-story structures, no windows, boarded up,
graffiti
that you ran through the middle of. I mean, the grass was cut, so it's not like it. The people were just ignoring the structure, not the area.
Yeah. And there were no spectators. No spectators along. I mean, there were some. There were a few, but it wasn't like. So you do the 3 loops.
We were on our 3rd loop pretty late, so
it
a lot's clear.
But there were a lot more spectators on the loop part of it. Yes. When you got back in the thing, there weren't. I mean, there were a couple. That one little kid ran with us for a long while. The Olympian, fastest man in Panama. He beat us, so good for him. It was a little kid that came that kind of I mean, I guess he saw us and he was like, "Oh, I can take those guys."
Yeah.
And he, I mean, he was kind of a spectator or whatever, cheering on, and then just ran with us. But he ran almost all the way to the finish line.
He did. He ran through the finish line.
He ran across the finish line. Good for him.
Oh.
So that was probably a good half mile, 3/4 of a mile that he probably ran. So good for him. But it's kind of, when you get to the actual finish line shoot, there are a few people there cheering, but I mean the good mile or so before that is pretty quiet and peaceful.
A little bit.
So just be aware of that.
So this is a good spectator race because it's a bunch of loops, and the bike and the run, have overlaps. So I mean, other than your spectator is going to be hot, there's a lot of opportunity to see the athlete. There was not much in the way of like playground equipment or entertainment for kids.
There was one restaurant that I saw. Was there any other restaurants besides that one?
No.
Yeah. So make sure that they bring something to do.
So prepare. But yeah, spectator was friendly. So this race, the medal was actually really cool. I like it.
So it's the medal has parts of Panama on it, like the famous stuff on there, but it's on the back. It's engraved and paint filled in on that. So that's actually a pretty good medal. And then I was thinking maybe this was a flag or something, because this is how you get it, is in a package like this. But
it's finisher towel. So not a hat, a finisher, like nice microfiber towel, which I'm going to use in the next race to wipe face off with. So yeah, no hats. Ironically,
it was something different. We've never received a finisher towel before. I mean, we have received towels before,
kind of hoping for a Panama hat. Literally, you're kind of known for
your Panama Jack hat or whatever. Like Little Debbie, in the Chattanooga race, they gave out the Little Debbie hats or whatever. You can give out a Panama Jack hat. That would have been awesome.
So they missed an opportunity. I think with that one, you'll just talk to my marketing people. We'll get you set up. Panama hat. But yeah,
or hey, if you're watching this, give us a call, man.
We got some ideas. Yeah. Overall, you got a rating for this race, or?
Oh man, there's. I'm trying to think of there's nothing that I would change about it, right? I mean, he literally picked the best roads that you could do.
Yeah.
And it's 3 loops, and I hate 3 loops, and it's U-turns, and I hate U-turns. I don't hate 3 loops as much anymore. I used to hate 3 loops a lot, but the U-turns I really hate. But man, if you try to make it less than 3 loops, you're getting even worse and worse roads. So I wouldn't change that. The run course, super spectator friendly. I mean, you're running up and down this island, which is the entrance to the Panama Canal. So you just run it. I mean, you can see the ships and everything going through. I don't know that I would change anything about this race.
I don't see how you could where they have it set up.
I would change if you could somehow rent the parking lot or whatever, and make it. I mean, I don't understand why they didn't let them use that parking lot. The finish line area was in like the old convention center parking lot. Maybe, I don't know. It wasn't super nice, so you could put it in the new convention parking lot, and maybe it'd be a little bit nicer. But when we finished the race, they had boxed food for you too. And then we went and sat in like the staging area for their water, and it looks like they brought in a tractor trailer of water bottles. Because it was just pallets and pallets of. There were still 3 or 4 pallets of waters in the staging area, and I had. I think I counted. I had 12 water bottles on the run. Me personally, I had 12. So if there's 1,000 people in the race, and each of them is 12,000 water bottles just on the run, not including the bike. That's a lot of water bottles.
And it's interesting. It's super rare to have water bottles handed out on the run. I can't think of another.
They were handing out full water bottles.
Yeah, so that you could run with it. It kind of made for a lot of trash.
Yeah, it made for a lot of trash.
But for COVID stuff, it works great, right? I'm handing you an unopened water bottle. Everything's nice and sterile. But it made for, so between my first and second loop one area was just, I mean, you were running through trash. By the time I came back on the second one, they had people cleaning it up. So they were doing everything they could to manage the garbage. It was just a lot of trash. So yeah, if I was looking for something to improve there, it'd probably be keeping it a little cleaner, or having, you know, that team. Swimming in the canal, I mean, I'm going to call that my favorite swim. Oh, it's super cool.
I mean, you're saying towards these buoys, but if you just look over to your right-hand side, there's the
giant
huge
oil tankers and
cargo ships
and going past you, and it is unbelievably cool. So yeah, I mean, that was awesome. There's no other way to describe that. Just incredible to be able to do that. So the water's brackish and murky, and you're not seeing anything. So from a pretty perspective, but just as far as the sheer coolness of being able to, I don't think you're able to swim in the canal normally.
I bet not.
The stairs that we used to get out were custom built for us, and they were taking them down as soon as we cut out. So this area is not a swimming.
It was not a beach.
No,
not a beach area for sure.
So it's really cool to be able to do that, and so I would put the race on the bucket list just for that item alone. I wouldn't call it a scenic race because you're in a city. But
yeah, I mean, so that swim, I mean, you get that view a bunch because it's where you swim down is your part of your bike, so the bike is on the road, and then the run is on the sidewalk beside the road. Oh. So you're doing the same area over and over again. But it's a nice little contained area. The entire bike course was closed, not open to traffic. So that was cool. Yeah, I don't know that there's very much that they can improve on.
No, the people were phenomenal. I don't think we could talk enough about that. How friendly everybody was, helpful. The local. I love to see when a city likes having the race, and I mean the road that when we went onto the elevated road was a major road that we were screwing up traffic for a lot of hours. So. Kudos to them. So, you have a rating for this race?
All right. So it's been a little while since I've rated any races.
Okay, sure.
So we have to go back and remind me what it is that I'm rating about the race.
That's a good question. I don't know that we've ever had all of our standards are arbitrary and none of them matter anyway.
And a lot of them depend on how tired we are when we're doing the video.
That's very true. There are some races that have gotten harsher sentences on Arizona. To be fair, that one deserves a harsh sentence. But I wouldn't change it.
So this race was hot, but they can't change that.
No, that's not. It's not. I don't think our rating is based off of it is. Hey, this is a disaster and it needs to be fixed.
Right.
You lose points for that. But really, the overall rating is: should people do this race, or should I base mine off of would I do this race again? What would it take for me to do this race again? In the case of Arizona, nothing.
So we're doing 1 to 7, and I mean, but you were super tired after Arizona. We were both very tired after and you smoked me in that race. So anyway, so 1 to 7, 4 being average. So 4 is not a bad score. It's just an average score, right? For this race, for me, I don't know that there's anything that I would change.
No.
I mean, possibly the finish line area, if you could, and the parking, if you could move that into the new convention center parking lot, that would probably be better. Or at least open that parking lot for parking. But
yeah, it felt a little bit. You certainly changed the parking situation, but it felt arbitrarily spread out. Like they had a lot of space in that area, and so things were very far apart that.
Didn't necessarily have to.
Yeah, you could have put it closer together, but I mean that's just a.
I mean, if Red Bull wants to set up 100 meters away, then I guess that's their thing. They can set up over there. But there was a lot of space in that area. All right, so I mean, but as far as the swim, I mean, you want to go down current. I mean, assuming that there's a current. So even though you're looking into the sun for part of it, I wouldn't change that.
Nope.
The bike, I mean, it was 3 loops. I'm not a huge fan of 3 loops, but on this course, definitely 3 loops was a benefit.
3 loops, yeah.
The run, I mean, it was along the canal. Plenty of, I mean, super great for spectators, and there were a ton of people out there, even as late as we were out there running.
Yeah.
The ending was kind of weird in that you left that great big crowd, and then you had basically a mile or so, 3/4 of a mile of nothingness until you got to the finish line. But I mean, the only other way you could have done that is to keep going down that street, which is where the bikes were coming in. So you didn't really want to mess up where the bikes were coming in. So I think they have this race set up about as good as they possibly can.
They're working,
So, anyway, all that being said, I mean, it's not my favorite race. I mean, a lot of that probably has to do with it's a hot race when it's winter in the U.S., and so we're just not acclimated to the heat. I mean, we've raced in hotter weather than this. I mean, it was scenic in that you saw the canal, but that was really about all that you saw. The rest of it was kind of, I mean, the rest of the bike was along the ocean, and that bridge was kind of cool that you went over. This is a very long rating.
Dude, I've lost interest, actually. I'm over here, like, I so wonder. Huh. Yeah, you've gone into a soliloquy. So my swim is 6.5, maybe a 7 for this one.
Okay.
The swim was awesome. I mean, you're down current, and that's tough to beat. But you're in the freaking Panama Canal. Yeah. And that was super cool, and that's just, so yeah, it's getting most of its rating because the canal. Oh.
I mean, this is the only time you're going to be able to swim in the canal. This is the only, I mean, that's the reason to do this race.
Yes.
Is because of the canal.
Yes.
I mean, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would recommend it once for the canal.
All right, so what's your rating on the bike?
I had a flat tire. So that was not Panama's fault, and the roads were, they were best roads in Panama. So I'm going to give it a 5. I mean, there's no shade. The scenery's not awesome. But it's better than average. It's reasonably flat. 3 loops is just never my thing, so it's a 5. What about you?
Oh, the swim, I loved the swim, and like I said, there's nothing I changed about it other than you're looking straight in the sun. So just make sure you get there early and get to the front of the line. I'll give it a 6. If they could have had the current flowing a little faster, so I could have done a 28-minute swim, it'd have been a 7 for sure. But the bike, I didn't have a flat tire. What'd you give it, a 5?
5.
I got to give it higher than that. I give it a 5.5. There were some, like we said, these are the best roads in Panama, but there were some roads that weren't great that you were on. Some sections of roads that weren't great. What you got on the run?
This run, the spectators made this run. The spectators and volunteers. So you're running along the canal, but this is such a spectator-friendly race, and they're stuck. They can't go anywhere, so they have to cheer for you. So I'm going to give it a 5.5. There's no shade. Just no shade. Sorry, I can think of 3 trees.
There's some palm trees.
I remember them very well. But yeah, you're running in the heat. Plenty of aid stations, plenty of ice, plenty of well supported.
I got to give
I couldn't have asked anything else.
I got to give it a bump up for the ice and the ice coolers that they had out there. That's the best supported hot race we've ever been in for the run.
Bar none, absolutely.
Yes. And giving out the big bottles. So you can
water.
carry it with you or whatever. So yeah, I got it. What'd you get? 5.5. I got to give it a 6, I guess.
Okay.
So overall,
this is a 5.5 race. Okay. The reason to do this race is the canal.
Yeah.
and of course, we were there. We weren't there but a few days, and I felt like we got every bit of Panama that we really wanted. To be fair, we were not getting down in the nitty-gritty. This is the high-level tourist stuff. But we got to see, everything. We had plenty of time. There was no rush. It's a 5.5 race. So recommended for me, but it's not a race I'll do again.
Okay. I'll bump it up a little bit because my other scores were a little bit higher, so 5 3/4, I guess. It really is a well-run race, and given what they're trying to accomplish, I think they've done the absolute best that they can. And I highly recommend that people do the race. I mean, that's like I said, you're doing it for the canal. That's the deal. And Panama City was a lot cooler than I thought that it would.
It was very cool, yeah. So, stay tuned next time. We've got Oman, and I'm fairly confident we're going to knock this one out on time. So we will. You should see the same background. Thanks for watching.